Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am Denise Gagne, and I'm really thrilled to have with me today James Allen. James is a wonderful percussionist. He's got degrees from Yale in performance. He's got lots and lots of playing experience. In fact, he's even had some gigs this summer during COVID. So he's going to have a wonderful session for us. Before we go to the session, I'm going to quickly share screen with you, and I'm going to show you one new thing on the website. So I'm going to the online learning modules, and in general, I've started building month outlines. And so September is done. October will be up here shortly. And with these outlines, there's three sections. Section one is the song list. This is the Musicplay song list from which I always draw my lessons. This is what I'm putting in the online learning modules for kids at home. And then I've got in-person suggestions as well. So if you're teaching in person and the kids can't sing, I've got suggestions that you can do to keep the kids going and to keep the kids learning. I really hope you're taking advantage of those. And in the modules, we have built all of September. I hope you're on September week 4 now. And we've built October week 1, October week 2 and 3. We'll be starting to get into some Halloween and some spooky stuff in case your kids can't do Halloween. So I'm going to come back to Vimeo. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to say I've got my drum right here. And I'm going to be drumming along with James as he teaches us about frame drum sharing. So really enjoy this webinar. I'm looking so forward to it.
Hey everybody, I'm James Allen. Thanks so much for checking out my workshop on Musicplay. Frame drums live in many elementary classrooms and come in all sizes. I am playing a professional model, which is larger and louder than the frame drums you might encounter in your classroom. Here are some frame drums you might encounter in your classroom. Got a small version. Still sounds amazing. These are Remos. A little larger here. Then you get a larger model. Now Remo also makes what I call the thin line, which is great. All my students play this. It's easy to carry, easy to play, easy to hold. So I just want to show you that. For the purposes of this workshop, I'll be using this frame drum, and hopefully you have a frame drum in your lap at this point too. In addition to working with some composition and improvisation, I want to reintroduce this drum to you and kind of show you the many sounds you may not have realized are possible on the frame drum. After you watch this workshop, if you have any questions regarding technique or using the frame drum in your music classes, please feel free to reach out to me. Additionally, I have a frame drum unit on the Musicplay website. My goal today for you is to use this entire sequence unit in your classes. I mean, you can choose any part of it for your classes, but the way I've designed it is you can go from start to finish and give your students a real good experience. And I've been using this unit during the first weeks of my school, and it's going to prepare my students for deeper learning throughout the year. So when I put the drum in my students' hands, it's often in first grade, so I'm really playful with it. I have them imagine it as a soup bowl, it could be a steering wheel, it could be a mirror, because there's actually a mirror image on mine, but they could just pretend. I mean, when I introduce this drum to first graders, you know, they have a vivid imagination, so it's really fun to just kind of exploit that. Plus, it keeps the drums quiet while other students are getting drums from the shelf. So if they're, you know, eating soup and deciding what kind of soup they like, that's a great way to just keep them busy. So I want you to imagine the drum in your hands as a soup bowl or a steering wheel, a mirror, or anything else your imagination goes to. And that's just a great way to get started. Okay, now it's time to get some technique. Decide first which hand is going to do the striking. So my strong hand is my right hand, but some people are right-handed and their strong hand is their left hand. It's totally your personal call. I want you to place the drum on the opposite leg. So I'm going to place it on my left leg. And then put my hand on top. My fingers are dangling over the edge, but they're not too stiff. That keeps my hand from dampening the sound. And I'm going to play the first stroke, which is called a doom. It's D-U-M, pronounced doom, D-O-O-M. My fingers are going to strike the drum and bounce off, similar to a conga or turbano stroke, but softer. So I'm going to, if your frame drum is ready, I'm going to play 4 strokes, and then I want you to play 4 strokes after me. Good. And I want you to make sure that your students really bounce their hand off, otherwise you produce a dead stroke. You don't want that sound. You want to really let the drum ring. Now, if I played that on a smaller drum, it's going to sound like this. And an even smaller drum, they all ring if you do it right. Because later on we're going to be learning a dead stroke called a pop. And what I do is I have my students notice what the sound reminds them of. It might remind them of a gong, or being in a cave and hearing an echo, or a cow, or any kind of mooing sound, or something like that. And again, they're young children, so they're just going to imagine any kind of crazy sounds. But it helps them if they if they personalize the sound, because once they personalize the sound, then they know what sound they're going for. If you really don't know that you're going for this sound, then you're not going to really reach for that sound. So that really helps for them to visualize it. You want to personalize it. So let's do some more echoing. I'm going to play some rhythms using the doom sound, and I want you to copy me. And you may notice that I repeat those phrases twice. The reason why I do that is because it just gives a student a chance to fix it if they mess it up the first time. Here's some more. Nice. Okay. So at this point, I would send the doom around the circle. So I have my students sitting in circles always. Helps them to see each other and listen to each other and be connected to each other. And so I would send the doom around the circle. And what's nice is you may have a student with a drum like this, and you may have a student with a drum this size. So you're going to get all kinds of different tones, and it's kind of nice. They actually, my students have often commented that they can hear a melody. And they go, and when we try to speed it up, and that becomes fun, and we go the opposite way. And I also have someone else choose to be. I might choose another leader to start, and then pick a direction, so it goes around. So they kind of take a leadership role in that. So at that point in the class, I would have them send that around the circle. So every sound you learn, I would have them send that sound around the circle. And you can do that with any instrument. You could do it with a triangle. If you're teaching triangle, you could do it with a recorder. And let's say they all learn the note B. Well, you really want to assess them, so just send it around the circle. So they're being playful, but you're really assessing them. So that's a good way to do it. Okay, our next sound is called a pa. A pa is the opposite of a doom. So instead of letting it ring, you hit it in the center and you keep your hand there like you're magnetized to the center. Like that. And a lot of students will do this and kind of bounce off. You want to kind of demonstrate that and hold it. And most students will get it. There'll be a few students who do not. And if they don't, I'll just tell them, pretend your hand got stuck. So even though you might be playing 4 strokes like this, you want to hold it there for a second. So repeat after me. and that's the pa. And at this point, of course, I would send the pa around the circle. Now with the frame drum, the doom and the pa can be enough for quite a while. Just like when you're tubano, maybe. You have your bass sound and you have your tone sound. You can play a million grooves with that. So that could be one class right there. And you could do some rhythms where you kind of combine it. So I'll play some rhythms and I'm going to combine the doom and the pa, and you copy me. Excellent. And what's nice is we use, obviously in ORF classes, we use lots of Mother Goose rhymes and nursery rhymes. You can take the rhythms of any of those rhymes and put them on the frame drum, even just using pa, or doom, or a combination of both. All right, before we get into our most sound, which is the tech, let's do some brushing and knocking. Brushing is great. Kids always love that. So if you take your hand and you put it at the top, and you brush down and then up. So I'm going to do a couple of strokes. I want you to copy me. So that's a great sound. You can also use your fingernails. It might drive some students crazy, but it's an excellent sound. So you can try that. The other thing I want to teach you is the snap sound. Now snap sound, again, some students can't snap, but I always offer this as a possibility. And you can snap both hands. And you can snap multiple fingers, but I wouldn't teach that to elementary students. So I would take the hand that's at the 9 o'clock position on the drum, and just have them snap a few times. And then if you take your hand and just put it flat against the drum and kind of turn it a little bit and snap. You may miss the first time, I'm going to do that. But if your goal is to get that finger to hit the edge of the drum, most students can get it pretty fast. And if they really want to challenge, they can do it up here as well. Do it there, ring finger, middle finger, any finger really. And that's really fun for a louder sound. And if you do it right on the edge. And that's a fun activity right there, just to get them to get that sound. All right, so that's the snap. Now for the most difficult sound, and I think the most interesting sound, is the tech. The tech sound is where you take the bone of your ring finger and you tap it against the edge of the drum. It's the hardest because students want to put their finger in like this and hit the drum like this. The idea of hitting the edge of the drum is a little strange. But once you get that sound, it's such a contrast to the doom and the pa. So what I want you to do is take your hand that's at 9 o'clock, and I want you to kind of point your fingers down. And if you take a ring finger and put it right on the edge, and use your thumb as support, then kind of swing your hand out. If you swing your hand out and hit the bone of the finger, which will not hurt, you'd think it would hurt, but it doesn't, you'll get that high-pitched, what they call the tech sound. And it's a great contrast, like I said. It's a really important sound of the frame drum. And my older students can get this sound. Even on this drum, you can get the sound. So if you're here, that's a definite contrast to and. So, if you do the tech with the high hand, with the hand at 12 o'clock, that's called ka, because tech ka is like TT or 2/8 notes or do day. So this is how it would sound. So just work it out for a couple of seconds. See if you can get your fingers to the edge. And then I'm just going to play with my right hand, or my 9 o'clock hand. I'm going to play 4 techs, and I want you to copy me. Good. If I move my hand in too far, it becomes a doom. So listen to the difference. Here's your tech. And then, now I'm playing a doom with my middle finger. So you want to keep your hands way out there. Let's do a couple with the upper hand. And notice what my thumb is. It's kind of supporting here. So. And again, this is something you may need to work on before you teach your students. So, I'm going to play a couple of patterns with my right hand and my left hand. So my strong hand and my weak hand. So copy me. Good. So that's something you can work on for a long time. That's like the slap on a conga drum. It takes a long time. It took me 6 months to develop my slap. So be patient with yourself and be patient with your students once you learn it. This sound is really important to the overall sound of the frame drum, and it's definitely worth learning, but I would definitely save it for last. Now that we've learned all these sounds, what are we going to do with them? A lot of times you learn these techniques and then you're like, what am I going to do? So I want to show you a technique I use in my classes to teach beginning composition using rhythmic motifs. So I always use this 4-finger technique. I have the students hold up their 4 fingers and I have them create a 4-beat rhythmic motif or rhythm idea using rhythms they're comfortable with. So if they're in 3rd grade, I'm going to start them on 4 16th notes. Takadimi, tiri tiri, wanianda. If they're in 1st and 2nd grade, we're talking about 8ths and quarters. 4th and 5th grade, we can get into much more complicated rhythms like syncopation and things like that. So I'd have them audiate a 4-beat rhythm pattern. And they would give me a thumbs up if they like it, or give me a thumbs sideways or down if they don't like it. And I say, listen, you're the composer, so you can definitely create your own thing. So take your time and create something you like. So you see a couple of flashes of recognition, like, wow, I can make my own thing up. Yes, you can. So I have them audiate it again, and then I have them say it out loud. I would count them in and say their rhythm out loud. And when they do that, now they're hearing it. The reason why I have them audiate it first is because it's it can be very distracting to have everyone saying the rhythms at the same time. Later on, it's really cool because you can hear all the interplay, rhythmic interplay. But right now, you just want to focus on your own sound. So then you say it out loud a couple times. And I said, that's great. You have your 4-beat motif. That's great. Let's make up another one. And the only thing I want you to change is I want you to change 1 beat. For example, if you had, if you had 2 8th notes here, maybe you make 4 16th notes here. If you had a quarter note here, maybe you end with 2 8th notes. It's totally your choice. Put a rest in there, whatever you want to do. But it's got to be just 1 beat difference. I have them audiate that pattern. And then I have them say it out loud. Then we review the first pattern, we review the second pattern, and then I put it together and they have an 8-beat motif. So it's nice. So if they ever want to use, if they're soloing or playing with a group during some kind of rondo, then they have this little thing they can pull out of their pocket. So then I have them audiate. And then I have them say it out loud. And then that's theirs. And then I have them normally, if I had, in my classes, I would have them then body percussion. And some older classes, if I feel like the classes are ready for it, I just have them improvise. If I don't feel they're ready for it, I have them work it out for like 5 minutes, create a body percussion pattern they're comfortable with. But in trying to teach them to improvise and think on their feet, they already have their thing they've created. They have this 8-beat motif. Well, now that you have that, improvise and come up with different patterns on your body. So that's just a great way to transfer. And then I transfer it to the frame drum. So, what do? You put these sounds on the drum. So, they get the frame drum, And at this point, like I said, you can do an improvisation or you can have them work out a pattern. But right now, let's say they just have dooms and pas. You can do all kinds of things with doom and pa. If they want to do 16th notes, they have that brush, because it's a little bit, could be awkward for a younger child. So the is perfect for 16th notes. And they have that sound, which I haven't shown you yet, but knocking the rim of the drum is an excellent thing. And also the back of the drum is a great sound. So that produces that sort of gong-like sound. And when the whole class is doing it, it's really kind of nice. And like I said, in my classes, I would normally give the students 5 to 10 minutes to work up combinations and then share them with a friend. Now that you're comfortable with creating rhythmic patterns and comfortable with frame drum sounds, let's check out some Middle Eastern rhythms. And this is how I first came to the frame drum, was playing in a group that played Middle Eastern music. So I'm going to demonstrate each rhythm and break them down for you. Here's the first one called Maksum. It's helpful to know that syncopated, like ti-ta-ti, or one and. So listen to it. It's a combination of just dooms and pas. And I'm going to snap 4 times to give the tempo. So you notice all the upbeats are on the pas and the downbeats are on the dooms. So it's kind of like the bass drum on a drum set. Good, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play 2 measures of the Maksum, and I want you to copy me. Excellent. So now I'm gonna, well, I just wanted to say one more thing. Notice my left hand isn't doing much right now. The left hand plays the kas, it can play a pa, but mostly right now, it holds the drum up and that's fine. So you can use the Maksum as an ostinato and have your students perform their rhythmic motifs against the Maksum. So that's nice. You could have half the class going, while the other half plays their solos, and then you can have them do one at a time. So that's a great way to apply not only the Middle Eastern groove ostinato, but apply the 8-beat motifs that they've created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap in like this, snap you in, and I'm going to play the Maksum, and I want you to play your solo. Okay, how'd you do? Now I'm going to play it twice, so it gives you a chance to double the length of your solo. How'd you do? I bet you got better. Okay, so that's a great culminating activity just in itself. And what you want to think about is coming up with different combinations. So you've done your motif twice. So maybe use just dooms and pa. Maybe you want to throw in a tek or a knock or a back of the drum or a brush. So each time you do it, you want to try to do it differently. So that's your improvisation there. So using a little composition and a little bit of improvisation. So I'm going to do that again, but I'm going to play it longer. I'm going to go for a little while. And I want you to just go for it. Just experiment. So how'd you do? I bet you got better at it. And that's all you want to do for your students. You would just want to give them the chance to kind of experiment. And then you switch. You have them play, and maybe you do your solo, so you can, show your skills off a little bit to your students. Now, I actually have many more rhythms I want to show you, and I want you to learn. But in the interest of time, we're not going to do that. I just want to demonstrate them for you. So the first one I played was the maksum. This next one's called the baladi, and the rhythm is this exact same. In fact, the next two rhythms I'm going to show you are exactly the same. But what's nice about the baladi is the doom comes in a different place. So instead of going doom, pa, pa, doom, pa, it's going to be doom, doom, pa, doom, pa. So there's two dooms at the beginning. So I'll just demonstrate it for you. Good. And the next rhythm is called the Saidi. And again, you can look these up online. There's a million examples on YouTube. Saidi, same rhythm, right? But watch how the dooms and the pas are different. So you have doom pa, instead of pa doom, you have doom doom. So it's a very powerful rhythm. If you listen to Saidi on YouTube, there's some pretty cool examples. The best thing you can do is go on YouTube, like I said, just search these rhythms as a play along. It's the best way to practice for yourself, but also with your class. You could put on a maksum at a medium tempo, and they could all just play along with it. So now, because I'm an ORF teacher, I use rhymes in my classes. So for this last segment, I want to teach you a famous rhyme I learned from Jim Solomon. He's another percussionist, an ORF practitioner, an author, and an ORF levels teacher and a clinician. And he taught me this years and years ago. So if you don't know it, repeat after me. I'm going to go phrase by phrase and then weld it together. Queen, Queen Caroline washed her hair in turpentine. Turpentine made it shine. Queen, Queen Caroline. Now, you may know about Queen Caroline, but apparently this queen liked to wash her hair in turpentine. Some say it was to get rid of lice, and some say it was to dye her hair. She was a bit eccentric, so it became a rhyme, and she's kind of an historical figure. So, you don't have to tell that to your students, but it's pretty interesting. Now I'm going to do the first two phrases. Queen, Queen Caroline washed her hair in turpentine. Last two phrases. Turpentine made it shine, Queen, Queen Caroline. Good. I'm going to put the whole thing together. Queen, Queen Caroline washed her hair in turpentine. Turpentine made it shine, Queen, Queen Caroline. Okay, and it's in the notes, so if you need to look at it, and all the Middle Eastern grooves are in the notes as well. Now we're going to transfer the words to frame drum sounds. And then again, this is all in your notes, so please echo me. Doom, doom, pa, pa, pa. That's the first phrase. Second phrase, you can do brushy, 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 brush. Or tekka, 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 tek. I wouldn't do tekka teks with younger students, but if they want to get, older students want to take that chance, it sounds really good. But brushy, brush is fine. The third phrase is knock, 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 knock. And the fourth phrase is back to the original phrase, doom, doom, pa, pa, pa. So I'm going to just demonstrate the whole thing for you. Okay, let's do it phrase by phrase. Awesome, how'd you do? I'm sure great. All right, I'm going to play two phrases. Okay, the last two phrases. All right, let's put it together. I'll do the whole thing. Hopefully you got the whole thing. Let's do it one more time. I'll do the whole thing, and then you copy me. Okay, and again, these are in the notes, so you want to learn it. It's a great way to create a rondo, because this could be the A section of the rondo, so the entire class would be playing that. And then when we get to the B's and the C's and the D's, the alternate sections, students would play their solos against a maksum. So you would obviously choose who's going first, second, third, etc., so they know when it's their time. And you could actually count them in. So let's say we all did Queen, Queen, Caroline as the A section, and then the teacher or another student start the maksum. You could do that a couple times, or the student could go right into their solo. So that's a great way to create a rondo. Again, if this was a live workshop, I would have you work with a small group and play through the rondo. Instead, I want you to take this back to your classroom and try it out with your students. Now, I'm going to give you a little bonus. This is called a T-high. A T-high is a cadential phrase. In South Indian music, in tabla music, a T-high is something that kind of ends a long, long section. And the way I do the T-high is like this. So it's taka 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 taka. And that's the whole thing. So I would cue it by going, and you go taka taka, and that's just the end. So that could be the end of the entire rondo. And what's nice is you use a taka. So that's a great way to end something. And that's, again, once they learn the text. Or you can have them make up their own coda. But that's a classical way to end a piece like this. So this concludes the workshop. Hope you found some useful ideas to take back to your classroom and to your students. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, or just let me know of any success stories with this material. Thanks again.
Hey everybody, can you guys see me? Awesome. Okay. So thank you so much for attending this workshop, and I hope you all found something useful to take back to your class. I've got some questions in the chat. So the first question number 1, suggestions for sharing drums during COVID. Our school allows us to share as long as we're extremely careful about cleaning. So whenever a student uses the drum, we clean it right off with a sterile cloth, a cloth that sterilizes it, and then they use hand sanitizer. So, and of course they're distanced. So we're very, very careful about that. Other districts may not even allow that, but we do it. We just be as careful as we can. So, in fact, we're in the hybrid model at our school right now, and we're going to go back fully no hybrid starting this coming Tuesday. So that's going to be a very interesting and exciting time for us. Number 2, I'd love to see an example of the Mother Goose rhymes. How would you have your students do it? Well, the one example I gave was the Queen Queen Caroline. But in ORF training, we had to actually buy a Mother Goose book and go through it and analyze them. And they're either in 6/8 or they're in 4/4. They're either in duple or triple. So there's so many opportunities. I would get a Mother Goose book if you don't have it, and I would play through every single one. I'd get it like one of the big volumes, and I would play through every single one of those rhymes. Some I just blew off and thought, I don't want to, it doesn't seem like it's going to work. And then I'd be just reading through it and playing through it, and boy, it would start to sound really cool on the drums. So again, that's just a classic ORF thing. You take a rhyme and you play it on the drums. So any Mother Goose rhyme, I would give it a try. I might not like one, and then you might like it. So, like I said, some will teach duple and some will teach triple. And the best thing about Mother Goose is you can, if you want to teach multiple meters, you can go from duple to triple just by mixing up two two Mother Goose rhymes that have different feels. So that's kind of cool. Cheap alternative to frame drums. Yeah, even the Remo thin lines that I like to use, they're pretty expensive. I saw a video, I think Drew Bullington was, he was playing on an Amazon box. So if you get a thin Amazon box, you could play on that. You know, I would say maybe have them also make them. You know, you can get a hoop and a skin, and, you know, I haven't really done that, but I would say boxes sound great. So that's a great alternative. You get the thin boxes. So you got to ship something to your house that's thin and not thick. But even a thick one you can put on your lap and you can play it like a drum. So, you know, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not going to sound the same, but a big hollow box might sound great. I have tons of shape drums. The large one, not so many frame drums. Would they work in a same way? I don't know what a shape drum is. Denise, do you know what a shape drum is?
Yes, they're made by Remo, and they're in different, like they're triangle.
Oh, I can't.
They're quite small. They're quite small. My own
Yeah,
feeling
yeah,
is they wouldn't
Yes.
all that well. They're small, and I don't know. As a hand drum, I don't think they work well. I think you need to have the beaters.
Yeah, and you can get the smaller frame drums. I mean, you can get a set of like 8-inch drums, and they're still going to ring. If you play these drums correctly, you get this beautiful resonance out of it that, you know, a lot of people just don't know how to, they just kind of slap it, or they kind of get a tone. But this technique is the classical technique on frame drums. This is how you get the most beautiful tones out of these simple drums. So I would say just try to build up a collection if you can. You know, see if you can ask for it in your budget. The size drum that I'm using, yes, go ahead.
This is a really inexpensive drum. I bought it for my baby classes, and the little ones can handle it. But I actually think, you know, I mean, the sound isn't terrible, but they are small. And yeah, I think I got them from Rhythm Band Instruments is where these came from. But yeah, I like the box idea. You could buy boxes from Uline, and then you could have a whole class set of boxes.
Right. And this drum I'm using now, this is a pro model. This is made by Cooperman in Vermont. These are just like beautiful. This is like maple, this beautiful head on it. And it's just, it's so thick, you know, that it's really resonant, you know? I don't know how that's coming through on, I don't know if that's distorting, but you know. But I will teach using like the 16-inch Remo thin lines, which are really nice. I would say the thin line models are amazing, but I always use a pro model because I want to set the best example for my students. You know, like this is what you know, like this is what it should sound like. But you can make the other drums sound like that if you learn the right technique. When you play the pop, are you still bouncing off the drum, or is it a dead stroke? What do you mean by pop? So what is, because this is the doom. Oh, the pa. Well, the pa is P-A-H, so it's pa, if that's the right thing. If not, you can put it in the chat maybe, but dead stroke, this is bouncing. This, bouncing, back of the drum. Everything is like letting it ring except for this. This is supposed to be, it stops the sound, but it's its own sound as well. So, and the snaps, you know, try to bounce your hands on. The tech, you actually leave your fingers on because you're so close to the edge that you're not deadening the stroke because you're right over the rim. So that answers that. The maker of the large frame drum, yes, Cooperman. If you look up Cooperman in Vermont, you will find some of the most beautiful drums. They grow the trees right on the property, and then they make the drums right from those trees. They're pretty fascinating. One of the greatest frame drummers, if not the greatest alive, Glenn Velez, who I've studied with, he uses Cooperman, and all the great frame drummers use Cooperman. And there's a lot of other great drums out there, but I just think they're so beautiful and they sound so amazing. How long does it take to teach Middle Eastern rhythms? I mean, I would introduce it and then just have them play it. Just a lot of call and response, you know. Do that for a couple of classes. I would never, you know, when you try to play your created rhythms against an ostinato, that's like, you know, stuff I used to do when I first started teaching. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do all this in one class. You know, I'm going to teach the movement and I'm going to teach the, you know, you go to an Orff workshop and you're like, I'm going to do it all. And then you realize it's a 4-week process or a 1-year process. So I would get them really comfortable with, you know, send it around the circle, you know, work with a friend, back and forth, demonstrate it, get it really comfortable. And then bring in their rhythms. And 1 or 2 kids will be able to do that. I mean, when I have kids, we were playing tubanos today, and they were playing their created rhythms, and I had the rest of the students just keeping a beat. And that was hard enough. You know, that's, kids need to learn to play with a steady beat and to play their rhythms against it. And that's a challenge in itself. So be patient and really let them digest it. Like I said, play along with a YouTube recording of a maksum. Do that for a couple of weeks. And then say, you know what? You've been creating these rhythms. Let's play it against them. You know, make it a non-stressful event. Make it like a real musical, like, whoa, that's so exciting, as opposed to like, okay, now we have to do this, because there's no way you can do that in one class, you know. And the same with the rondo. You know, the rondo, take a month to put that together. You know, remember when we did that Queen Caroline thing and you played it on the frame drum? Yeah, okay, now we're going to add something else. Okay, without any accompaniment. The accompaniment is just like the icing on the cake, but it can really drive people crazy. I had a student today going like, when they say the rhythms out loud, it confuses me. I'm like, of course it does. You're in 3rd grade. You know, it's going to do that for a while, but that's just the process, you know. And then, you know, if you're patient, and I always say, I give an example of me all the time. You know, I've been studying this stuff for years, and I've been playing a lot of chess. So I give that example of chess. So like, I lose a lot, and I got to keep playing. You know, that's how I get better. So process, not product. I am not putting shower caps on the drum heads because they're synthetic heads. So I can just wash them off. They give us a disinfectant spray, and I can wash the drum heads because they're not skin heads. They're artificial. Do you have to be careful with Mother Goose rhymes? In terms of the political or the, if that's what you mean. I mean, I don't think I teach the, if you're talking about that, I don't really teach anything controversial. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone would care if I teach Queen Caroline, but maybe. So we're all being aware of those kinds of things. Trying to be more aware anyway. Can you show us an example of how you might transfer the poem to body percussion? Yeah, sure. Like, well, Queen Caroline. So that's, you know. So my body percussion, I always start with a clap, 2-finger clap. You guys can copy me if you want. Regular clap, cup clap, flat clap. I love this one. It sounds so weird. It's like brittle and deep at the same time. And then there's padding, stamping, heartbeat, brushing, snapping. So, you know, queen, washed her hair in turpentine, made it shine, queen. And I would have them obviously make up their own. Because at that point, I'm not going to give them that, you know, unless you wanted to do a rondo and say, look, we're all going to group think a body percussion pattern, and we're going to kind of like, okay, this is what it's going to sound like. It's all in unison. It'll be awesome because you have this strong unison. And then later on, you have all the varieties. So I'd do that. I'd probably have the group come up with a body percussion unison pattern for that. And it's always great, you know, say it, body percussion, drum. It's like classic. So, and I just wanted to, Denise, do we have another minute?
Yeah.
I wanted to give you guys a bonus. As long as you have your drum with you, the real doom, this is great to teach, but the real doom is the thumb doom because it transfers to an ah real fast. So the thumb doom, I'm just going to leave you with this. And if you have any questions, you can always email me. The thumb doom is the thumb is played right on the edge and it bounces right off. So it doesn't do that, it bounces. As my teacher said, you don't follow through. You actually pretend you've touched a hot surface. It's kind of like teaching the tone on a tubano. Ow, I touched a hot surface. So just like that. So you start with your hand flat, bounce your thumb off, and you try to connect this entire part from the tip of your thumb all the way through the meat here and down. Because if you hit with this part, you're going to get a deeper sound. So I'm just going to do 4, you do 4. What's wonderful about the thumb doom is you can pa, so pa. And I will say, when I first got excited about the frame drum, brought it back to my classes, I tried to teach them too many sounds at once. Some kids got it. They loved it. They wanted to do the snap. They wanted to do, this is also a split hand. This is another technique based on tabla technique. I want to do that, What I realize is doom and pa. Do that for a while. Play a bunch of rhymes with it. Do a bunch of solos with it. Add this. Now you got a 16 beat phrase. There you're done. Doom pa brush. Knocks are easy, but texts. Don't do too many sounds. Make this a long-term goal, and the kids will have a lot more fun with it. It's just like introducing rhythmic complexity. You start with simple rhythms and you keep going. So all year long with my older students, I'm going to introduce, now we're going to do syncopation. Add it to your 4-beat phrase or 8-beat phrase. Now we're going to add dotted 8th, 16th. Now we're going to add 8th rest, 8th note. Replace something with that. I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. And in my experience, they get very excited about that because you just keep spiraling in on more complex ideas. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, James. I have one question for you. The unit that's
Sure.
on Musicplay Online, would that be
Yes.
8 separate lessons for you?
I'm sorry, 8 separate lessons?
I'm wondering how long you would.
Yeah, I would.
do that.
Oh, how long would you do that over? I would do like a lesson a week. Is that you're breaking up a little bit, so I apologize.
Sorry, this I'm plugged in.
Yeah.
I should be wired and I'm good tonight. But I just
no
wonder
problem.
how long that unit takes you. Like, would you do one lesson 1 week, and then the next week when you see the kids,
Yes.
the second lesson?
Absolutely. I would just stretch it out and repeat a lesson. I don't think anyone in your school is demanding that you teach frame drum. So this is just a joyous, wonderful option for you and new for a lot of teachers. When I did my ORF training, there's a different technique they teach, but I just wanted to teach. I want people to be aware that there's this beautiful classic training out there, and it takes a long time. But you got to make it fun. So I would do, one lesson, maybe take 2 weeks. And when you get to the rondo section, because I have the Queen Caroline rondo in that unit, take your time. Take your time. I have some class examples in there, and we barely got through it because I was, we got to get through this video. It's so cool, and these kids, they just, it takes a long time to process all of that information, even a rondo, and lots of snapping in between, okay, 5, 6, 5, and taking your time and getting the kids prepared and, for the next section, the alternate sections.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
I'm starting to, my that one is not so good. I need some more practice, but I really want to do a huge thank you to you. I hope we can extend the unit, maybe add some of the links that you mentioned to some good YouTube videos. that I think that would really help people to sort of understand where the frame drum actually fits in a cultural context.
Yes, sure, for sure. Yeah, there's like that's a whole other lesson right there and unit for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so
But
much.
thank you very much for sharing your time with us. Everybody give James lots of applause. You don't get to see everybody applauding, but I know they are in the chat. And I want to thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much. All right, take care.